Before we begin, I bow with deep gratitude to my Guru and to the Mother Divine, for it is by their grace that these timeless stories become alive in our hearts. In our previous video, we saw how the Devas and Asuras churned the mighty ocean using Mount Mandara as the rod and Vasuki, the king of serpents, as the rope. Lord Vishnu as Kurma, the giant tortoise, supported the mountain. Now, let us continue the journey to witness the divine treasures that emerged after the poison. Each treasure is not just a celestial object, but a profound symbol of spiritual truth. As the churning progressed, the first to emerge was the celestial cow, Kamadhenu, also called Surabhi. Her radiant form glowed like the light of heaven, and the fragrance she spread was a welcome relief after the deadly poison. Gentle and pure, her gaze filled everyone with peace. Lord Brahma accepted her and entrusted her to Brihaspati, the Guru of the Devas. Later, she came to be with the great sage Vasishtha, blessing humanity for generations. The churning resumed, and next came the marvelous equine Uchchaishravas. If Kamadhenu represented all feminine beauty, Uchchaishravas, the white stallion, appeared as if he contained all the masculine strength and poise in the universe. He was so named because of his loud neighing and his beautiful long ears, both of which were called Uchchaishravas, white as freshly fallen snow shimmering under the full moon. Uchchaishravas was unlike any other horse anyone had ever seen. King Bali, the king of the Asuras, immediately expressed a desire to own the steed. Indra wanted the stallion too, but Vishnu advised him to be quiet and let Bali have it. Later, when he would incarnate in his Vaman avatara and Bali would lose everything, Uchchaishravas would end up with Vishnu, who would then pass it on to Indra. Vishnu had already foreseen this, and he knew that it was best for Indra to wait for now. Throughout the Vedic history, in none of his incarnations or elsewhere would he ever reveal anything ahead of his due time or a smidgen more than what was necessary. Such were his ways, and they suited him perfectly. The Asuras and Devas reinitiated the swirling, only to stop at the emergence of the majestic Airavata, the great white elephant with 4 tusks. Before anyone could express their desire to have the magnificent elephant, Indra put his foot down and claimed it for himself. Next came more elephants, 8 male and 8 female, followed by precious gems, out of which Kaustubhamani and Padmaragamani were offered to Vishnu. Then emerged Parijata, a flower that would never wilt or lose fragrance, followed by a slew of Apsaras, celestial nymphs and damsels that took their breath away. The Devas and Asuras stood with their mouths wide open. The strapping, brawny, and mighty Asuras were certain that the nymphs would choose them over the slender Devas, but the Apsaras chose the Devas for their charming, tender, and regal looks. They related more closely with the Devas. This really upset the Asuras because for that brief period of time they forgot all about the elixir, the chalice of nectar, Amrita, which was the chief object of the churning. All they wanted was to take those nymphs and go back to their kingdom. As far as they were concerned, this was the only nectar they ever needed. If not for the wise counsel of their guru Shukracharya, they might have started a war right then and there. But nothing could have prepared them for the sight that came next. It was as if the whole universe came to a complete standstill. An extraordinary figure emerged from the ocean, as if all the beauty in the entire creation had assumed one feminine form. It was as though the sun on the horizon ascended upon divine instruction and melted into gold as it poured at the sight of the churning, raising a figure of unparalleled glamour and grandeur. The light of all lights, she was none other than Shri, the goddess of fortune, of opulence, called Rama. As she completely delighted everyone's heart, she was Bhagavatpara, only to be had by the Supreme Lord. Vidyut Saudamani, she appeared suddenly like a bolt of electricity, vastly surpassing the magnitude of lightning ever witnessed before. If the Apsaras had evoked every desire, the appearance of Mother Goddess totally overwhelmed them all. It was absurd for anyone except Vishnu to even imagine having her. She is way above our pay grade, the Asuras murmured. She is just not in our league, the Devas mumbled. But secretly, everyone thought that who knew they might just win the lottery. They would have gladly fought each other until the end of time, had the goddess so indicated with an ever so slight arching of her eyebrows. She was Ranjayanti. Her countenance gleamed with the radiance of 1,000 constellations. She looked around as time stood still. Her divine form commanded such reverence and submission that the Devas, Asuras, and every creature present there wanted to serve her with everything they had. Indra brought a throne for her. The Gandharvas began playing the most mellifluous of music. The Asuras offered their crowns at her feet. The sages started chanting. The Devas arranged for food, flowers, perfumes, and more gemstones for her. Unanimously, the sages called her Lakshmi, that is, she is everyone's Lakshya, goal. But the goddess stood still, looking around. She was not after these offerings and riches. She was the goddess of wealth and fortune after all. She was looking for something else, someone who was beyond all these things. She needed someone to whom she could surrender, someone who could charm her with his sovereignty, genius, and wit. She did not want somebody who became subservient at the mere sight of her. But where was this faultless person? She began moving about in graceful doll-like steps, Utpala Srijamna Dadvirepam, holding a garland of lotuses with constantly circling bumblebees. She was Savridahasam, smiling with shyness, Sukapola Kundalam. Her dangling earrings would occasionally hit against her tender cheeks, adding to her natural beauty. Moving through the Gandharvas, Asuras, Devas, and sages, most of whom held their breath and pacified their thumping hearts with an internal dialogue. The goddess stood still when she came near Vishnu. It was a no-brainer. She felt all those emotions for him that others had been feeling for her until a few moments ago. Only the intensity of her feelings was infinitely more than all of theirs put together. She garlanded Vishnu with the lotus flowers that were still surrounded by humming bumblebees. She stood there reticently with a demure smile. This was the only smile the Devas and Asuras saw that could be compared to that of Vishnu's. Even the all-knowing Vishnu was radiating a warmth and the joy Devas had never seen before. The ever-working Narayana, it seemed, paused the wheel of time as he cast a brief gaze in the direction of Mother Goddess Śrī. Then, realizing that he was under the keen eye of the Devas and Asuras, he smiled one more time. But that one smile was enough for the goddess to be put completely at ease, to be reassured that if there was anyone to whom she belonged, it was Narayana. From that soft ground where Lord Vishnu and Lakshmi stood, two divine sages, Ciklita and Kardama, emerged. They were immediately regarded as the sons of Srilakshminarayana. Pin drop silence ensued once again at the appearance of these youthful sages. Chiklita's voice, as if that of moving rain-clouds, reverberated throughout the universe as he called out to the goddess, his mother, Hiranyavarnam Harinim, Suvarna Rajadasrajam, Chandram Hiranmayim Lakshmim, Jata Veduma Avaha. This became the first of 16 verses of the sonic form of Mother Goddess. The entire hymn came to be known as Śrī Sūktam, and each verse of this powerful ode is invoked by a different sage. Some sages have invoked more than one verse, and they are regarded as the seers of those verses. Every time the verse or the individual mantras are brought to life, the rishi, seer of the mantra, is acknowledged and invoked to Na bhuto na bhavishyati, never before and not ever again would this rare event occur. Chiklita's chest heaved with a sense of accomplishment, pride and reverence all at once, as he found himself occupying a very special place in Vedic history. As Chiklita chanted the first verse, the devas, asuras and sages stood with their heads bowed and hands folded. The sages saw in their mind's eye how the verse had 7 hidden mantras, each one capable of transforming one's fortune. By the time the invocation of the first verse finished, it was evident to the seers gathered there that this was not just a hymn but the script to rewrite anyone's destiny. They knew that it was an unrepeatable and unique moment in the history of the universe. Deep in their hearts, the entire assembly of august beings understood beyond any doubt that since it was not possible for the goddess of fortune to be with everyone physically, she could be invoked in her sonic form by anyone, anywhere, and be rewarded with wholesome wealth and prosperity. They knew that to make this world move, a world free from poverty, was only possible if wealth flowed freely. But it was not all so easy, for invoking each verse was like churning the ocean all over again, figuratively speaking, of course. The great sage Chiklita had brought the first verse to life. Now someone else had to carry on the baton, but who and when? Finally, from the waves emerged Dhanvantari, the celestial physician, holding a golden pot filled with Amrita, the nectar of immortality. Both devas and asuras rushed to claim it, for immortality meant eternal dominion. They set the stage for one of the greatest divine plays, Lord Vishnu's incarnation as Mohini, who would decide who receives the nectar. And so, the Samudra Manthana was not just about treasures and being emerging from the ocean, but also about the eternal wisdom hidden within. The sages understood that the goddess of fortune, in her divine sound form, could bless anyone who invoked her with sincerity. But this was only the beginning, for each verse of Śrī Sūktam was like churning the ocean once again, a task that required devotion, effort and divine grace. In our next video, we will explore how these sacred verses came alive and how the Śrī Sūktam became a timeless invocation of abundance and prosperity. Before we close, I bow in deep gratitude to my Guru, whose guidance makes these stories alive in my heart, and to the Mother Divine, the eternal source of wisdom and compassion.